Flint and Steel.
In a world of chaos, we stand as one. Through the darkness, our fire burns strong.
Flint and Steel. Hello everybody, welcome to Clip or Cut. My name is Regan and today we will be ranking the Transformers movies from the most cut to the most clipped.
Yes, but you want to know, don't you, dude?
Yes, but you want to know, don't you, dude?
This is one of the worst movies I've seen in my life. And I tried to pay attention, but I just couldn't. This movie feels like 15 different films condensed into 3, condensed into 1. It's an absolute incoherent mess. First off, there's a common trend amongst these Transformers movies, which is using their selling point only for the marketing and not actually using it in the film. Like Nemesis Prime, which is Evil Optimus Prime, by the way, is cool, and it would get me to want to watch this movie, but he's just not even in it at all. He turns evil, does nothing, then fights Bumblebee for 5 minutes, and then Bumblebee speaks, in which Prime says,
"Your voice. I have not heard it since Cybertron fell."
even though he clearly heard Bumblebee speak in the first film. That's another problem with these movies. There's no continuity between them, and even though they take place in the same timeline, they just keep on retconning each other. In fact, this film was so bad that they just rebooted the franchise to a universe where Earth wasn't actually Unicron, because Earth being Unicron is a dumb plot point, and it's jumping the shark. Not to mention, this film just has too much going on. Like, for example, Mark Wahlberg is the Chosen One. Transformers have been around since King Arthur. There was a resistance group called the Witwickens, named after Sam Witwicky, who fought with the Transformers for years. Earth is Unicron. Optimus Prime is evil. Quintessa created the Transformers, even though in the first film it was actually the Allspark. All of what I'm saying makes as much sense to me as it does to you. And I didn't even pay attention because about halfway through, Anthony Hopkins provides an exposition dump about a lot of this. And that's about where the movie lost me, because I just could not keep up with this film at this breakneck pace that it has. The movie, in the first half, takes on this wasteland approach with a girl who's supposed to be important but isn't, because they just wanted to rip off Rey from The Force Awakens, and then they just completely abandon her in the second half while Mark Wahlberg gets involved with King Arthur conspiracies and has a romance subplot with a woman he has absolutely no on-screen chemistry with. But, I wouldn't know if they had on-screen chemistry because I actually was not paying attention to the film. Lastly, there's the problem with the aspect ratio constantly changing, which I didn't really mind, but it is a huge problem and really unprofessional on Michael Bay's part to shoot in 2 different cameras with 2 different aspect ratios and then just not fix it in post. And the one good thing about all these movies, the Bayhem, is also bad here because it's just a huge CGI battlefield and not an actual, city location, which is cool, but it's just not cool here. The only good thing about this film is that Suicide Squad ripoff sequence where they introduce some of the best characters in the franchise, like Mohawk and Nitro Zeus.
Gonna miss you, Tim. Thank you for your hospitality, Brad. I know where you live, Enrique.
So yeah, if that's the best thing about this movie, then this movie's getting cut.
I'm an inventor. This could be a game changer for me.
I'm an inventor.
Transformers Age of Extinction follows Cade Yeager, played by Mark Wahlberg, as he finds a rundown Optimus Prime in a rundown movie theater. After a run-in with the government, okay, I can't do this anymore. Transformers Age of Extinction was one of the worst scenes in cinema history. Now, I'm going to refrain from talking about the scene, but those who have seen this movie know exactly which scene I'm talking about. This movie is the exact same formulaic Transformers movie, but with less heart and soul put into it. Where The Last Night felt like way too much, Age of Extinction feels like way too little. The movie follows Cade Yeager, who's an overprotective father who's afraid of losing his little girl, and his little girl has a boyfriend that he and Mark Wahlberg have to beef with for the entire film until Mark Wahlberg finally accepts him. AI could have written this plot. And the characters are so unlikable. Like, Mark Wahlberg is so mean to everybody he comes across. How am I supposed to root for this guy?
You better have insurance. Insurance? It's a freaking spaceship. You go get insurance on a freaking spaceship. Good luck with that, buddy.
And again, with these Transformers movies, advertising something a bunch and only having them in the movie for like 10 minutes. The Dinobots are super cool. If I was a kid and I wasn't scared of these movies, I would totally want to buy a Dinobot toy and play with it. But they're only in the movie for like 10 minutes and they literally have nothing to do with the plot. So yeah, their inclusion in this film, just to sell toys. Transformers Age of Extinction fails to do anything that the previous movies ever did. If I had to point out one actual positive about this film, it's definitely the Bayhem. The finale in Hong Kong is actually super fun, and it's got some great moments, but the problem with it is that I don't care or feel like there's much at stake because I don't like the characters, and this movie decides to crack a stupid, unfunny joke every 30 seconds. How am I supposed to take this film seriously if it doesn't even take itself seriously? For some reason, this is the longest Transformers movie, nearing 3 whole hours. Yet during these near 3 hours, it feels like the least amount of stuff happens out of all the Transformers movies. Not to mention that the CGI has also taken a nosedive with this film. It still looks pretty good, but the transformations look a lot less realistic for transforming alien robots at least. Stanley Tucci, who is a CEO working for a company named KSI, is creating these artificial transformers, and they don't even like shift the gears and cogs from a car to a robot. They just dissolve into cubes and then turn into something, which would make a really unfun toy to play with for what's mainly a toy line. At least I could like pay attention to what was going on. Not to mention the Seed, the main MacGuffin of this film, makes the Allspark irrelevant, which is what all the movies do. They just retcon the big plot device from the first movie for something so much more lame. Anyways, I'm done talking about this movie. It's getting cut.
So what'd you do with the accent? Accent? What accent? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it's cool. Like, I was about to be like, yo, mira, papi, de donde eres? Pero I didn't want to assume that you speak Spanish too. Because then...
Transformers Rise of the Beast is a movie some might call good. Some might even say it's flipped. There's a huge jump in quality in this part of the list from Age of Extinction to Rise of the Beast. Rise of the Beast does a lot of things right. First off, the story is actually comprehensible and makes sense. These Bay movies have really convoluted stories told in weird ways that don't really make any sense. But in Rise of the Beast, the Transformers want this key to get back home. Scourge wants the key to have Unicron eat Earth. And Unicron is not Earth because this is the reboot timeline after the last night nearly killed the franchise. You see, this is comprehensive storytelling. The Maximals are the selling point of this film, and they have way more than 10 minutes of screen time. In fact, they're actually pretty important to the plot and actually do a lot of things on screen, which is more than I can say for some of the other films. The action is alright. The museum fight is pretty cool, but the battle, again, is just a big CGI battlefield, and it's really boring and doesn't make for an interesting set piece. The human characters are likable, even though most people call them bland or uninteresting. Noah Diaz, played by Anthony Ramos, is likable. This movie gives him a little brother who is sick, so that when he saves the world, you know he's fighting for his little brother, which gives the film that much more of a human touch. A lot of these movies are just boring films about saving the world, but this film gives you a reason to care about all of the explosions going on. Despite all this, Rise of the Beast still plays it way too safe. Is this movie really that spectacular, or is it just a step up from previous disasters? The film, despite being one of the least bad Transformers movies, is also one of the least good. To Transformers fans, the film's probably really enjoyable because of the inclusion of the Maximals as well as the movie being good overall, but to general audiences, this won't change anybody's minds about these films.
Why don't you get a haircut with your...
Why don't you get a haircut with your...
Now let me get this straight. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen is getting cut. Now you might be wondering, how could he put a cut movie over a clipped movie? That makes no sense. Well, to me it does, because Transformers Revenge of the Fallen is a terrible movie. There's not much defending I can do for this thing. It's just a travesty in so many ways, but despite everything that's horribly wrong with this movie, I really, really, really like it. It's a guilty pleasure. And no, I don't find it hilariously bad like other people might. I actually genuinely enjoyed this film more than Rise of the Beast, even if Rise of the Beast may be the objectively better film. Watching Age of Extinction in the last night honestly made this movie look like a masterpiece in comparison. But first we gotta talk about the negatives. There's so much wrong with this film. This film was written during a writer's strike, so there was basically no script when they started production. That's why you get the most random plot points, with Shia LaBeouf making out with a girl who's actually a Decepticon, which I never knew that Transformers could turn into humans. That seems like a really helpful tool that would help them a lot, but they don't seem to use it ever again. Just kind of seems like something random that they threw into the script. And then you get Shia LaBeouf seeing weird symbols in his head, and he starts geeking out in front of his class, and you don't even know what these symbols means. They're just apparently important, and the Decepticons want him because he's seeing these symbols in his head. Then 90 minutes into the film, it's finally revealed what the MacGuffin is. The symbols in Sam's head are actually a map to the Matrix of Leadership, which would have been helpful to know 90 minutes before. The Allspark was literally the first scene of the first movie. It establishes the MacGuffin. Now, I'm pretty much just watching a feature-length film to know what this film is even about. Not to mention, the film just exposition dumps all the time between exciting set pieces. It's really bad writing if you just exposition dump whenever there's not any explosions going on. Then there's all the inappropriate and uncomfortable little scenes that I'm gonna refrain from fully explaining. And then there's the twins, some of the most annoying and offensive characters ever written. It's pretty clear that these two guys are just there to make the little kids laugh, which means that they're not funny at all. I don't know why they stick with the main cast for the whole movie. Like, why is the main group just a few humans, Bumblebee, and then these two? Finally, this film is yet another example of not using the selling point of the film. The Fallen is literally the titular character, but he shows up for 10 minutes at the end of this film and gets annihilated by Optimus Prime. Like, he's supposed to be the big bad, the first Decepticon. Why does he not even put up a fight? I don't even think he lands a single hit on anybody. But besides everything in this movie that sucks, the reason I like it is because Shia LaBeouf plays Sam Witwicky and Megan Fox plays Michaela Baines. And these are already characters that I like. Shia LaBeouf's acting in these movies are really good. I see a lot of people hating on Sam, saying that he's annoying, but he's way better than Mark Wahlberg, whose character is just a terrible person. The Bayhem in this movie is also pretty good. The Forest is a highlight of the entire series, where Optimus takes on a 3v1 and nearly wins. The Shanghai segment that opens the film is really good, and the climax, although it takes place in the desert, which is less interesting than a city getting mass destroyed, is still pretty good, even if the Fallen gets no time to fight. In fact, this movie has the world record for the biggest on-screen explosion with actors present, and the world record for the most complicated CGI model ever with the Devastator, who is a giant lizard robot thing made up of multiple Transformers combined into one. And that just shows how ahead of the curve this film was. This film entertained me for 2.5 hours, and I didn't really want it to end as much as The Last Night. In the scene where Jetfire sacrifices himself to give Optimus a set of wings, I started cheering on my TV because it was so cool. But then I realized that this movie actually has a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. But honestly, who cares what the critics think? This movie is awesome.
This is EP508. This is AAtron. And this fella here is Steve.
Transformers 1 is one of the most breath of fresh air things I've ever seen. To have a Transformers film this well paced and this well realized is just amazing for the series. Transformers 1 has 0 human characters, is fully animated, and fully takes place on Cybertron, meaning that this is a true return to form for the series. The marketing did not do this movie any good because it made the film look like a stupid movie for little kids when really this is just a movie for little kids that's also very enjoyable for people who are not little kids. For anybody wondering, this film is wicked but with Transformers. It tells the story of how Optimus Prime and Megatron were once the bestest of friends but became enemies, sparking the war on Cybertron. And honestly, watching the way that these two characters develop differently is fascinating. Seeing how D16, aka Megatron, becomes blinded by vengeance and ends up becoming a tyrant at the end, and how Orion Pax, aka Optimus Prime, takes the same situation by prioritizing the good of his planet, and that's why he gets the Matrix of Leadership, is really entertaining. And the last 30 minutes of this film are amazing. The only problem I have is that they don't use real voice actors. Like in the Bane movies, they had Peter Cullen reprise his role as Optimus and Frank Welker reprise his role as Megatron in the last 2 films. The voice acting is still believable. I still like it, but it does stick out like a sore thumb hearing Chris Hemsworth be Optimus Prime. But other than that, this is easily one of the most heartfelt Transformers movies to date, and it really doesn't feel like a crash grab, but rather a love letter to the series, which is why this movie is totally getting clipped.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with, females working on my engine.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with, females working on my engine.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with, females working on my engine.
Now we get to Transformers 1. Let me just say, This movie is a classic. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. Everybody always says all the Transformers movies suck, but the first one was pretty good, which I've never heard anybody say in my life, but this first movie is really good. I personally think that this is a perfect blockbuster. That doesn't mean it's the greatest movie ever. That means it's really fun to take all your friends to the theater and shout and clap and spill popcorn all around during the most quotable moments. If there was one problem with this movie, it's just way too convoluted. This movie has 3 different plot lines going on all at the same time that convene together. The best one is easily the one with Samuel Wicki and Michaela Baines, played by Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox. And you can tell that this plot line is so good because literally every other live-action Transformers movie copied this plot line, where an unsuspecting man gets a car, and then that car turns out to be a Transformer, and then they're saving the world. I like this plot line a lot because Shia LaBeouf gives a very charismatic performance as Sam. I like that he's normal enough, but they don't make him a blank slate, so he's still relatable to the teen audience while being really entertaining to watch. Also, John Turturro in these first 3 movies is just so amazing, and he's one of the best characters. Then there's that plotline with Lennox and Epps, which is really good and has some cool action scenes. Then there's the boring government plotline, which sucks because throughout this plotline, the government is trying to find out what's hacking the systems, and as an audience member, I already know it's Transformers, but I have to watch the smartest people in the world not know that it's Transformers. The only great thing about this plotline is Glenn. But besides that, this film has perfect pacing. Everything here seems grand and huge and not empty and hollow, like the arrival to Earth scene, or the scene where Sam and Michaela both get in the car and that extremely good Goo Goo Dolls song made for the soundtrack plays. Both of these scenes are amazing, and there's just a lot more. This movie never gets boring. It always had my attention. And then there's the Bayhem. Let me tell you, if something is physically possible to do and capture on camera, then Michael Bay will do it and capture it on camera. Maybe transforming robots can be done with CGI, but it's physically possible to split a bus in half. So Michael Bay will split a bus in half for a shot or few. It's amazing filmmaking, and there are so many good set pieces in this film, like the opening with Blackout wiping out a military base, which scared me as a kid and made me avoid these movies for a super long time. Then there's that car chase between Bumblebee and Barricade, which is really cool. There's Optimus v Bone Crusher, which is awesome. And then the climax is awesome because you don't get mindless, faceless Decepticons. You get Decepticons with names, and although they don't have personalities to go with those names, this makes for a really entertaining final battle where you get a Decepticon tank and a Decepticon jet and Megatron and other Decepticons. Now, all this action is cool, but I always hear people complaining about that scene where the Autobots goof around in Sam's yard while he tries to look for his grandfather's glasses, because it doesn't have any fighting. But I love this scene. It's scenes like this that reminds you that these Bayformer movies once had heart put into them. This film is just a really fun summer blockbuster that still holds up today, I think. That's why this movie is getting clipped. So this is a controversial take. Most people say that this movie is bad. That's just not true. If you watched Transformers Dark of the Moon and didn't get any enjoyment from it, then you probably have no appreciation for top-tier filmmaking. This film literally rewrote American history. They got Buzz Aldrin to say on screen that the moon landing was in response to an event of an alien spacecraft from Cybertron crashing on the moon that they had to go and discover. This film is awesome for the exact same reasons why people hate these movies. People say it's too many explosions, not enough heart, but people don't actually realize the amount of work and effort that goes into making a cool explosion. The story here, not the best, but it's captivating enough to make you care about what's going on. Like at the start, Patrick Dempsey isn't evil, but he's just sort of suspicious. So when it's revealed that he's evil, it's shocking. Then Optimus Prime spends so much time talking highly about Sentinel Prime, so when it's revealed that he's evil, it's shocking. And then he kills Ironhide, who's been there since day one. Incredibly sad. This whole film isn't a masterclass in storytelling, but it certainly is engaging. And then once you get to the climax, it really feels like all hope is lost. It feels like this is the last stand for humanity. And the climax might be the greatest third act in any movie of all time. And people are going to disagree with that. But the truth is, this movie has one full straight hour of Bayhem at the end of the film, and it is the most glorious Bayhem I've ever seen. First, you get the Autobots returning when the movie made you think that they were gone, and Optimus Prime says,
We will kill them all.
Then you get men in wingsuits, and they were actually wingsuiting in Chicago, which is dangerous, but it's cool. Then you get the falling building segment, which I can't explain how good to you this segment is. It's a section where they put our characters in danger as it escalates from Decepticon ships just shooting down the building to a giant drill monster squeezing the building, making it fully collapse, all while the human characters are holding on for dear life. It's nail-biting, epic, huge scale, engaging, just purely amazing. Then you get Sam versus Starscream, which most people will probably be upset about because Starscream has been there since day one and he just gets owned by a human. And then there's a scene where Optimus Prime comes back into the fight, which isn't a cool set piece or anything, but it's just like 30 straight seconds of Optimus Prime slaughtering Decepticons. Then you get Megatron aiding Optimus Prime in defeating Sentinel Prime, only for Optimus to decapitate Megatron and mercilessly point-blank execute Sentinel Prime. Not to mention there are other great set pieces in here like the amazing highway chase that leads into the Mexican standoff that leads into Sentinel Prime raging and destroying everything in his path. This film is epic, a huge-scale blockbuster. Are there even movies like this anymore? I don't know, but this film should be celebrated in pop culture regularly, but people think it's bad for some reason, which doesn't make sense. Anyways, this film is getting clipped.
Music can help you say what you're feeling. Try this.
Bumblebee is the best Transformers movie, and let me tell you why. Bumblebee doesn't have any Bayham because it's not directed by Michael Bay, but the action here is pretty fun and still really well done. You might be saying you like Dark of the Moon only because of the action, and yes, but Bumblebee has something more important going for it that all of the others don't really have. The others just have explosions. What Bumblebee has is making those explosions matter. That's why Age of Extinction ranks so low, because it has a really cool climax, but it doesn't have likable characters that I care about. Bumblebee, however, spends a lot of time making you care about its characters so that when they're put in situations of peril, you really are engaged. The climax here is pretty cool. It's got a car chase, some pretty cool fights, but the real heart and soul of this film is the characters. Charlie, played by Haley Steinfeld, is the best human Transformers character because you can tell that she and Bumblebee have a great bond, and her personal matters are so simple yet so effective. She's a teenager struggling with coping after the passing of her father, and the movie doesn't outright tell you this, but you can just guess with all the show don't tell moments throughout the film. Her and her relationship with her family is mostly shown to you with emotive acting and cinematography that highlights what's going on perfectly, and Haley Steinfeld's amazing acting only helps. This film has a lot of scenes that have nothing to do with the overall plot but are just fun to watch because they build these characters like Charlie and Memo TPing a house and egging a car for revenge as Bumblebee just stomps on and completely wrecks the car. That's fun to watch because it doesn't have much impact on the plot, but it does make you like these characters a lot more. Bumblebee is not very representative of the Transformers name. In fact, it's the Transformers movie that probably has the least to do with Transformers, but it's just the best movie to have Transformers in it. It's entertaining, emotionally gripping, fun to watch, and epic at the same time. This movie is definitely getting clipped. Flint and Steel! Alright, so if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. Stay tuned for other videos, and if you have a ranking of the Transformers movies, leave your ranking down below in the comments. We love to discuss movies here and discuss other people's opinions. And yeah, stay tuned for our next video, and see you next time. Flint and Steel!